Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Aubrey. I'm so happy to have you all here with me today. So we are going to continue the video that I started this past week where we went over we're in the process of going over all of the books that I've read recently up until July. So I'm not going to talk about the books that I have read so far this month. Those are going to be for a later wrap up. But we are just going to continue where we left off and just start with the next book. So if you didn't see that previous video, I will link it down below, but we are going through the books in the order in which I finished them. So I'm going to send you to Past the Aubrey, and we'll just go ahead and pick up right where we left off. Then I read The Year of the Hare by Ardo Pasolina? Not sure if I'm saying that correctly. Okay. So I have mixed feelings about this book. I really liked our main character's relationship with the hare that he finds and just like taking care of it, you know, being so devoted to making sure that it stays safe, or that he stays safe. I think it's a male hare. Pretty sure it's a male. And caring for him and this bond that they have, because I love animals and I definitely bond with all of my pets. They're like, you know, I talk to them, snuggle them, want them to be happy, want them to be safe, much like he feels about his hare. However, well, let me just, I guess, continue with the positives. I also really liked the commentary on the dangers of moving too far away from the natural world. So like the chaos that you see in urban areas, and when people become so far removed from nature and from this desire to kind of immerse yourself in it and have simple pleasures and stuff, when you remove yourself from that, the kind of things that it can lead to, I really liked that. What I didn't necessarily love about this is some of the like just absurd situations that the main character finds himself in, but not necessarily the situations, how he reacts to them. So just, I do think that like so many other characters, so many of the other side characters in here are just awful. They don't have very many redeeming qualities, a number of them. Some of them are fine, but some of them you're just like, why? Why are you like this? And I don't enjoy reading about characters like that. It just frustrates me. It frustrates him too, our main character. So I did feel that kind of kinship there. I'm like, yeah, this is crazy. These people are insane. But the way that our main character even responds to certain situations just felt like, it almost felt like he thought he could do things without consequences at times because he had kind of removed himself from society. And I didn't really like that because it almost seems like he didn't feel a sense of responsibility to things. And a lot of the stuff he did was just because he was told to do it. I don't know. I also did not like the way he reacted to the bear or the crow or raven. I can't remember which it was. I thought that was super messed up. Did not like it. If you don't like cruelty to animals, it wasn't great. Didn't like it. Because it's almost like when something made him angry, the way that he responded, I don't know, I just didn't, it was like he couldn't think through, oh, it's not specifically targeting me. I just didn't like those two, I didn't like those two parts at all. But overall, it wasn't a bad book. Like I said, I did enjoy kind of seeing him just in nature and just this idea of like living a simple life. It just, absurdist comedy is not for me, and I'm not saying that that's what this is. I wouldn't go that far, but just some of the situations and the way he's reacting to them, it was just frustrating for me. I was like, this, like, why are you doing this? Why are you going along with this? And then some of the way, like I said, that side characters would act, I was like, that's awful. That something, they need consequences, and there weren't really consequences for them, and that was just frustrating. So I know that it's commentary on, like I said, the dangers of certain societies and the way that they're structured and the way that people are allowed to behave in them. But I don't know. It wasn't a bad book. It just wasn't my favorite. Then I read a book that I did really love, and that is A Fragile Enchantment by Alison Saft. This is the Owl Crate edition. It's so pretty. And I let my mom read it, and she also really, really loved it. The romance in here is so cute. Our main character, Neve, I really connected with her on a number of things that she is feeling and saying. She has anxiety, she has a hard time seeing herself as good enough, even though she is very talented, and she knows she's talented, but she still struggles with her sense of self-worth. And not just her, we have a lot of that going around in this story. I'm trying to think of what I can say without spoiling stuff. So again, it deals with some mental health things, like our second prince, Kit, is struggling with some things that have happened in his past, and when his mom died, the way that he responded to that, and what he's gone through since because of his sort of like breakdown. We also have a lot in here about classism, I guess, and also like prejudice against certain groups of people. For example, the two main countries in here that we are seeing, well, there's really three. They're based on England, Scotland, and Spain, or it might be Ireland. I'm not sure if it's Scotland or Ireland, and then Spain. And so there's tension between the English coded country and the Ireland / Scotland coded country. And bad blood on both sides, prejudices. As I was saying with Neve, we also see, and also with the two princes, this struggle with trying to be worth your life, if that makes sense, and doing what people are expecting of you versus doing what you want to do. Like the princes, obviously, with Kit and his brother, they are in positions of great power and great authority, and so that also comes with a lot of expectation. They have responsibility to their nation, to their country, to their people, and then we see them struggling with that in different ways. Kit with his arranged marriage, and then what he actually wants out of his life, and trying to decide if he is worth going after what he wants, even though it could potentially hurt, his nation. And then we have his older brother, who is dealing with trying to run a nation that is having a lot of issues at the moment, and trying to like take it all upon himself. And we have Neve, who, and I hope I'm saying her name right, she deals with that on like a more personal level, where she thinks that she has a responsibility to her family, and she feels like she's wasting her life if she's not trying to do something to help others, if that makes sense, and is not very good at taking time for herself and thinking that she is worth things as well. So it's a really, really good story. I really liked it. It's also very sweet. It's got a lot of like fairy tale romance kind of aesthetic to it. We have the prince in the castle, and the descriptions in here are so beautiful of like the gardens and the castle and the buildings. So lovely. And so it's just, and there's also, like the intrigue of, there's like political issues happening while this story is going on, with like the Macklish, who are, the Scottish Irish people, kind of like protesting. So we have that. We have this mysterious figure who is like spreading gossip about the nobles in the royal court. We have the arranged marriage going on. We have Neve being thrust into the middle of all this. I really like this book. I think that it's a very enjoyable read, and it if you're looking for a romance that the characters are kind of not meant to be together, here you go. Okay, make sure it's not gonna fall. And then I started reading a manga series that I'm already very familiar with, because I did watch all of the anime that is out so far, except for season 2 of the original anime, because it does not follow the manga. It kind of created its own content, and I wasn't really a fan. But season 1 and then all of the like mini-series or movies that have come out so far I've seen, except for the newest one, because I've decided that I'm going to read the manga and catch up and then continue watching with the new anime content. But that series, if you've been on my channel before, you know what I'm talking about, is Black Butler by Yana Toboso. So I have read the first 10 volumes so far. There are 33 out so far. I think the one that just came out was volume 33. I don't think it's volume 34, but I could be wrong. So it's either volume 33 or 34. So I'm a little less than a third of the way through the series so far. And I really like Black Butler. I know that it's not for everybody, but I enjoy it. I enjoyed watching the anime. I've enjoyed reading the manga. I have caught up through the Book of Murder arc, well, pretty much. There's a little bit to finish of it in volume 11, but like I said, I've already seen it, so I know what happens. So I still have to then read Book of the Atlantic, and then I will be caught up through where I'm familiar with the story, and then everything after that will be new content for me. So I'm very excited. But I really like Black Butler. I do. I know that it's not for everybody, and it has some like cringy moments that are kind of uncomfortable, and the premise is very dark, but I am still holding out hope that it's going to have a happy ending. I'm an optimistic person, so I can hold out hope. But I really like the characters. I love Sebastian, again, overpowered character. I mean, he's literally not human. He's a demon, so he can do a lot of things that humans can't, and I like seeing him scare people. I think it's fun. And then CL, I will say pretty much everyone in the series is like morally gray at best, except maybe Prince Selma and Agni. And Finny, but then again, Finny's morals kind of are put on the wayside when those he loves are at all threatened. Which when you learn about his past, I mean, kind of makes sense. But Finny is a little ray of sunshine. I love him. But pretty much everyone else is morally gray at best. But I love it. I love it. I love seeing them, you know, go on these different adventures and like going through these different arcs. Even the silly ones, even the silly parts, I think are fun. I love the Victorian aesthetic. It's so pretty. Like Sebastian brings tea with little cakes on pretty china plates. It's so pretty to look at, and it makes me hungry all the time. But and the clothes. Yana Toboso is so good at drawing outfits. I will say the art style in the first couple volumes is not nearly as good as later on. Like, okay, let me just, as an example, find a later cover with Sebastian. And you can see the difference between volume 1 and volume 5. The art style gets significantly better as it goes on, especially with the drawing of people. The drawing of other things is always great, but I mean, it's never bad, but you can see definite improvement as the series goes on, and it's so pretty. I love it so much. And I will say, reading the manga after having watched the anime is giving me a new perspective for some of these characters, particularly Sebastian and his interactions with CL. I understand when you are adapting something, even if it's into a TV show and you do have more space to include things because you can do multiple episodes, you do usually have to cut stuff out. I understand, just for the sake of time. But I think that Sebastian and CL's relationship makes so much more sense in the manga, because in the anime, a lot of what was left in was the snarky comments and them, you know, not necessarily being the nicest to each other all the time, until we get to Book of the Atlantic, and then you start to see it more, which was pretty cool. But in the manga, you see that, but then you also see, I mean, Sebastian is in charge of caring for this child. He depends on him for food, assistance. He's his butler, so lots of assistance with everything. Running his household, helping him with solving all of these murders and incidents and things. And so you see more of that relationship in a positive light, even with the whole demon deal aspect going on. But I do very much enjoy it. I'm very much excited to continue this series and to catch up. I did decide to take a break for a little bit just because I feel like 33 volumes is a lot to read back to back. So I read, the first volume, which is just like a bunch of stories, and then the Jack the Ripper arc, Book of Circus, and Book of Murder. So now I just get to read Book of the Atlantic and then I'll be caught up. But I did decide that was a pretty good stopping point to take a break, and then I'll get back into it later after, I take a while to read some other things. All right, so 3 books left to talk about. So after I read Black Butler, I did read book 1 of Guardian, or Junhuen by Priest. This is a Danmei, and it is only 3 books, only 3 volumes. I have already ordered and received the second book because I liked the first one, and I have the third and final one on pre-order. So when it comes out later this year, I'm going to read books 2 and 3 back to back. But I really enjoyed this. I was not surprised by like anything that happened. I called pretty much everything. Well, I mean, like, not like the main, not all of the minor plot points and like who was going to do what and who was going to go where and what was going on with the different mysteries. I didn't really have that figured out necessarily for everything. But as far as like the overarching plot with our romance and the soul executing emissary and all of that, I called all of that. I knew it was going to happen, but that's okay. It did not make me mad that it was obvious. It didn't make me mad that I figured that out. I just enjoyed having figured it out because then I could look for hints of it throughout the story and find those, and I really like doing that. But I really like this. I do think, just like with the other Danmei that I've read so far, the writing is definitely not flowery. It's very, straightforward. Sometimes the way that our characters act can be a little over the top, but I did really like it, and I like the supernatural aspect to this one, and I haven't figured out who the villain is or what's going on with that. But I am excited to finish this, and like I said, it's only 3 volumes, so I will be able to finish it when volume 3 comes out and get like a resolution to the story. But yeah, there is also some miscommunication in here, but it's related to memory loss, so I'm trying to figure out how I feel about that. I don't know if I can really call it miscommunication so much as just not communicating on one side of the relationship, on one party's part. So one person is just not saying things to the other, and I feel like is having a lot of angst going on that could be resolved, but they're not resolving it because there is like some memory loss and stuff going on. But it's just, I do enjoy it. I will say, if you don't like really snarky, kind of like, oh, I'm a tough guy sort of characters, you might not like Zhao Yunlan. But I liked it. I enjoyed it. He can be kind of mean too to people. He like has this very likable persona, but inside his head he can be kind of mean. But at his core, he's not a bad person. He has his good side. But yeah, it's just a Danmei. It's just fun to read. I mean, I'm not trying to say like Danmei is just a Danmei, but this one is just, so far, it's fun, it's enjoyable. I really, really like it. It's not like masterpiece of literature or anything, but I enjoy it. I'm excited to find out what happens. I mean, I know some things that are going to happen just because it's like obvious once you get into this. You're like, yeah, I obviously know some things that are going to happen. They're kind of hinted at in here, but as far as the overarching like issue with the main villain and stuff, I'm really not sure what's going on there exactly. So I'm excited to find out and just to see these characters interact with one another going forward. Then, after I finished book 1 of Guardian, I read volume 1 of Star-Crossed by Crimson Chains. So this was originally a webtoon. It is full color, Ta-da! And the first volume has been published, obviously, physically. I don't know when volume 2 is coming out. I looked it up as soon as I finished this, and I can't find anything anywhere online, which is disappointing, but this was published by Tokyo Pop, and it's so cute. I will say the art can be a bit inconsistent at times, just like with some of the decorations and things. It's definitely a very like kind of painted art style with especially the backgrounds. But the characters are so sweet. I love them so much. Once again, we have a bit of miscommunication. I don't know why I keep running into that. Just like conflict in the relationship where you have a character who's like, oh, I'm trying to protect them, so I'm going to pull away or do this. And then the other character's like, why are you doing this? I don't understand. And that creates some conflict. But I did really like this. We have been set up now with potential conflict from another character who I really don't like. Kind of going to see what happens with him moving forward. I'm assuming we'll get more from him. But I really enjoyed it. I really like our main character, Polaris. I think that he's really sweet. He's the king of this celestial star kingdom. And I just think that he's adorable. I mean, it's fairly short because it is just the first volume. So you really just get the setup of their relationships with one another, with Polaris and his brother, with Polaris and Yilden, his guard. And then, you know, the kind of initial start to the romance. And then we have a bit of conflict with, you know, Polaris being king. Not that their kingdom would have a problem with their romance, but just, again, once again, like the concept of like having duties to that interfere with your personal life and things like that. So, but I'm really hoping that we'll just continue to see these two being sweet and adorable together as the series goes forward. And the art style, like I said, it can be a bit consistent sometimes. Like sometimes Yilden looks a lot broader shouldered than at other times. Particularly like when he's wearing clothes, his shoulders look narrower, which is interesting. And I feel like the height difference is not always completely consistent either. But that's just nitpicky stuff, and I did really overall enjoy it. And I really want volume 2, so I really hope that it's, you know, either being worked on or gonna have a release date. But as long as it takes, you know, I know that it takes a lot of time to draw all of this, not just creating the story, but putting in all the time for the artwork. Like the artist actually had a bit in the back where they talked about their process for creating panels. And it takes, I think, for like one page, 1, 2, 3, 4, it takes about 5 hours, they said, on like to create just a single page. So I know that that is a lot of time and effort to put into this, so I'm not trying to say like, oh, I want it rushed or anything, but I'm just excited for the next volume to come out and for maybe to get into like more of the meat of the story, because I feel like a lot of this was very much set up and just kind of getting their relationship and their dynamic established. Okay, and now we come to the last book that I read before July. I finished this like at the end of June, and it is my favorite book that I've read so far this year. I love it so much, and that is Voyage of the Damned by Frances White. Oh my god, it's so good. I mean, Heaven Official's Blessing is like a fantastic series and I love it, but this book, I don't know why I loved it so much. I expected to love it, and I will say it was nothing at all like how I expected the story to be or to go, but I loved it. This book just like grabbed me, hooked into me, and I love it, and I like need more editions of this to be released, even though it's just now coming out in the US. I got this from Illumicrate, which is why I have a copy, because they put it on sale in their UK store, and I was so excited to read it. I was like, I can't wait for the US release. So I got it. I'm so glad I did. I'm so glad I did. Oh my gosh, it's so good. Ganymedes, who goes by D, our main character, I love him. He is a delight. He is like a ball of low self-worth wrapped in humor, and I love him. I love him so much. And Grasshopper is the cutest little bean ever. And then our love interest, who I'm only going to call love interest because I don't want to spoil anything, has some issues, has some problems, which you'll see. And I did not figure out the twist until like there was one line that was said and I was like, oh my gosh, no way. And then it was like, I feel like this is sounding completely incoherent and confusing, and I'm sorry, but I really don't want to spoil this because I knew basically nothing when I went into this. I thought I knew stuff. I knew like the little synopsis on the inside, but I knew nothing going into this. It's so good. It's murder mystery on a boat with these heirs to their like regions in the empire who have powers, and then D is the only one who doesn't have powers, but everyone thinks he does. And he has to keep it hidden that he doesn't. And that's all you need to know. That's literally it. You don't need to know anything else about the premise of this. But it's so good. It's so good. Like, once again, I will say it's historical in a lot of ways, but a lot of the language that they use is very modern. So if that's going to bother you, definitely don't. I mean, like, be careful. You know, just be aware of that. But I will say it didn't bother me because this is not the real world, right? So the language that they use in this time period, and it's like they have historical, like means of surviving, historical technology. It's not modern technology, but the way they talk is very modern. But it didn't bother me at all. Like it wasn't jarring to me, except maybe at the very beginning, like the very first couple pages, I was like, what is this? I wasn't really sure I was gonna like D, but literally the next chapter, I was like, okay, I'm getting into this. I love it. And as it went on, I just loved it more and more and more as we go. But I mean, it is a murder mystery. People do not always survive to the end of the story, so be aware of that. But it's so good. It's so good. I loved it. I did kind of figure out who was killing people, but I didn't really figure out. I mean, I had my suspicions, but then like it keeps kind of, anyway, I wasn't sure. But then I did not know why at all. And it was just so fun to read. I mean, like there were I literally read it in 3 evenings. And it's so good. I just feel like I'm rambling. I feel like I'm giving you nothing of substance, but maybe my excitement will rub off on you and you'll all go read it because you all need to read it because I need this book to become popular. I need everyone to love it so that we can get more of it because it's so good. But okay, let me try to like organize my thoughts into something that actually makes sense to say. There is a lot in this book that deals with the politics, with these different regions and, you know, the more well-to-do ones looking down on other ones. And that's all I'm really going to say with that, because again, I didn't know anything else going into this, and I feel like you need to just find out the dynamics on your own as you go through it. But the characters were all so intriguing. You literally, after the first chapter, once they get on the boat, there are only 12 characters that you're really seeing being interacting with Dee on like a regular basis, because they're the only ones on this boat. And they are so interesting, their dynamics and their personalities and stuff, and they literally all have trauma or like are products of the society that they live in. I just love it so much, and I can't recommend it enough. I feel like, I don't know, it was not nearly as nautical as I thought it would be. I thought I was going to get very much a nautical murder mystery, but aside from the fact that they're just trapped on the boat, there's nothing really nautical about it. So, you know, if that's what you're looking for, that's not what you're going to get. But I wasn't disappointed because it was just that good, that even though it wasn't what I expected, I was okay with that. So, cannot recommend this book enough. Okay, and that was the last book that I read recently up until the end of June. So it's been, like I said in previous videos, I haven't been reading quite as much this year so far as I normally do, just because I've had so much going on. with like migraines and work and just life in general. But now I can really like see my reading picking back up, and I'm definitely enjoying it. So I do hope to do these wrap-ups quarterly, every 3 months. So what I have been reading so far in July, you'll see in that next wrap-up. Okay, so thank you guys so much for watching this video. Again, if you haven't yet seen part 1 of this wrap-up, I will leave it linked in the description below, so feel free to check that out if you would like. But yeah, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I hope that you maybe saw some books that sound interesting to you that you would like to pick up. Or if you've read any of these books and you want to let me know what you thought of them, I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments. Just please keep it spoiler free. Or if there are any books that you've read recently that you've really enjoyed, I would love to hear about that as well. And for today's emoji, if you would like to leave an emoji in the comments, either with your comment or if you don't have anything to say but you just want to show that you were here. Since we did a kitty last week, let's do a dog today. So you can leave a dog emoji in the comments if you would like. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you're having a wonderful day or a wonderful night wherever you are, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye! Tiny bug. Alright, I'll go save it. It's going that way. What? You want it? You can't have it.